right, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our second Uber Alumni Builder Hour. We have such amazing presenters today. I'm so excited to hear from all of them. And just before we get started, I think there was about, 200 or 300 people that signed up for our second Builder Hour. We're definitely going to need some help organizing these going forward. And we have a pretty good wait list of presenters as well, founders and people who are building new products and startups. So just want to make sure everybody here knows it's an open forum. If you'd like to present, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And we also would appreciate some help organizing this going forward. So if you're interested in volunteering, let us know. Emil, do you want to say a quick hello and then we'll get going?
Yeah, this time Anne made sure that we didn't have a cap of 100, so I think everyone could join. So sorry about that last time. The other thing we're going to do is ask a couple of fun questions every time that are topical to see what people think, because it'll be just fun to see how this group evolves over time and some questions, whether they're Uber related or not. So we're going to show you some of the results of the survey we sent out along with this invite.
We're Uber people. We need data. We need data. Yeah.
You want to do that now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to the next slide.
So the first question, which is topical because of COVID, was, what is your plan on location? Because you hear about this migration from the cities, particularly SF. Is that for real? And is this remote work thing going to be sort of very disruptive to cities and states, particularly the high tax cities and states? And look at this chart. Only 43% are staying put. 57% of people have either left, are likely to leave, either permanently or at least temporarily, and a full almost quarter are like maybe. That's kind of a lot. I bet you if you did this same survey last year, instead of 43% staying up and going anywhere, probably up near 70 or 80%. So if we're any indication of what is happening out there, this is sort of a scary, disruptive change to work and life and where people are going to live.
Emil, bad news, they're all moving to Miami.
That's great. You're welcome here. Good taxes, good weather. All right, one last stat, and this is a fun one, which is where do you think Uber's price will be by the end of 2020? And if you remember, we went public at $45 a share in May of 2019. It sounds like there's a lot of pessimism amongst the alumni out here, with 85% saying we're not going to get there before the end of the year. So that's a big statement. I don't know what that mean, if that's more macro or is that micro, because people are looking at the company and leadership and strategy or what, but this is quite a stat, and let's hope that this is wrong and we're way over 45 at some point by the end of the year, or at least next year.
Yeah, we have at least 15% that are diehard optimists out there. We like that. We like that. All right, thanks, Emil. Okay, here's our order for today. So we're gonna start with Rachel, and then Navneet, and then Chris, and then Jacinth. And why don't you each sort of introduce yourselves before you get into your presentation about what you're building right now. And then we're gonna make sure that there's a few minutes at the end of each presentation for questions, so you can chat the questions to us, or you can, speak up when we ask for questions from the audience. But you guys are the superstars of the show, so we're gonna turn it over to you, Rachel.
All right. I think, who's sharing? Emil, are you sharing?
I'm gonna
Can you stop, because I've got to, yeah, you need to stop for me to be able to, I guess.
There we go.
There you go.
Perfect. All right, let's see if I can pull this off. Can you all see that?
Yep.
All right. That was our original DC team. I know there's at least Amy is on the call, so hopefully there are other folks. Thanks so much, by the way, guys, for organizing this. This is awesome, and especially for those of us who are new to the other side, it's awesome to have just as great a community on this side as we had at Uber. So just a little bit on my Uber journey. I was at Uber for 8.5 years. Joined originally as the DC GM. That was my DC team, and then ran the East Coast and US and Canada rides, and then most recently NEMO, or the New Mobility Team, and the Uber Incubator. Couple fun stats on the other side I won't go through, but I did dig up that I was sign up number 10,000. This is overall to Uber, and have taken, as it turns out, 4,138 rides with a good rating. So what am I doing now? So why VC of all things? Well, as it turns out, like 8.5 years at Uber in real years is about 85 years of experience anywhere else. And so just the amount of time that we all had and the things that we saw, as it turns out, are incredibly unique and really helpful for the people that want to build the next generation of Ubers. So whether that's the ops stuff, whether that's the crises we faced, whether that's just the hyperscale, all those things, I really wanted to say, how do I take that? How do I scale that to the next generation of startups and the next generation of future Ubers? So when I decided I wanted to go to investing, there's all these actual dimensions that, frankly, I wasn't even aware of when I set out. So did I want to think about angel versus institutional investing? Did I want to join a firm or start a firm? Did I want to go late stage and do growth investing, for companies that are thinking about going public, or super early stage, where in some cases it may just be a founder and very little else? How broad a portfolio did I want? There's sort of the spray and pray model, or much more concentrated portfolio. How specific did I want to be to a certain sector versus kind of a set of, a hypothesis across a set of areas? And then ultimately, how hands-on did I want to be with the teams and founders? Did I want to take board seats, et cetera? So those were the questions that I pondered when founding Construct, which is a brand new venture firm that myself and my partner, and I'll talk a little bit about her, founded earlier this year. So we're an early stage firm. We're focused. We'll talk a little bit more about our focus. We're going to have a relatively concentrated portfolio, which means sort of lead investors, hands-on with the teams that we'll be working with, and really excited to kind of get that off the ground. We did a first close, so we now actually can invest, which is awesome. And I'll preview a little bit of our first investment as well, because it's super relevant to the Uber community. So when I set out to do this, I realized, I actually don't know much at all about venture. Though this combo of operating and investing, not only I think is really powerful, but entrepreneurs are really responding well to. So had worked with, found a partner who I'd worked with actually a bunch before. I was a scout at NEA while still at Uber, so had an opportunity to make a bunch of investments with Dana, who was at NEA at the time, and really kind of brought together these pie charts, equal part. Dana has a long investing history. She spent 14 years in venture. I obviously had the operating experience, and together, really wanted to kind of combine these two parts of a whole into Construct. So what are we trying to do? We have a strong belief that there are these massive markets. We call them foundational industries. These are, frankly, exactly what Uber is, and certainly was when it was an early stage startup, where it's looking at totally taking tech and totally reinventing these large industries. Some people call them like old school industries, the areas of our economy that just have not been touched in some cases in decades. And if the last decade was about tech largely transforming the rest of the software and networking space, we have a huge belief that the next decade is really going to be about tech disrupting the real world, right? It's exactly what we all lived through our experience at Uber, and what we want to invest in. And so here are just a few of the spaces that we're particularly excited about. Some people think this is focused. It's actually half the GDP. It's just the half the GDP that actually are really underinvested in, typically from a venture perspective. So 15% of venture dollars go into these spaces, places like manufacturing, supply chain. Certainly Uber, transportation would fit in this case in consumer, but there are plenty of business services in that area too. And these are huge areas of the economy that tend to get ignored from a venture perspective. And I think historically they've gotten ignored because venture investors see them as really high capex. And of course, we see when we get excited is when they're tech entrepreneurs that come into these spaces and want to build software, lightweight models to completely disrupt and transform them. And it's exactly what we all lived, and it was what attracted me to Uber, in 2011 when it was just a Series A startup, and exactly what we're hoping to find in the next set of companies. So what does a construct investment look like? So of course, we're looking at for extraordinary founders, like many of you guys, just as a quick preview plug, that are focused on these foundational industries. I'll put a little asterisk there for you guys. This is broad enough that your company will fit into this thesis, but focused enough that LPs think it's really differentiated. So these are the folks that we actually need to raise money from. I say that facetiously, but these are really big areas of the economy. Usually we'll invest at the seed or Series A, $2 to $5 million checks. We're geographically agnostic, though almost everything we'd imagine being within the US and Canada. And our first investment will be a ex-Uber founder. We can't talk about it yet, but the Uber Mafia is already massive and it's really early on. It is incredible now on this other side just to see the number of amazing startups that folks out of this community have already started. This number was my best guess, but about $1.5 billion have been raised already from this, by this crew. And really excited to see the next set. What was that, Ann?
That's a great stat.
Well, we'll see. It's changing every day. So this was intended to look like a scrolling sheet because it literally is moving every day. So what's my ask? Well, if you're starting a company or thinking about starting a company, reach out. If a friend of yours is starting a company or thinking about starting a company, reach out. But really excited to get a chance to tell you guys a little bit more about Construct. We can't, because we're fundraising, it's limited what we can tell the world about Construct. So it's really nice to get to tell you guys about it. This crew probably could fill 5 VC funds with just the amazing things that just the people on this call are going to do. So please feel free to reach out, if only just to say hi.
Thanks, Rachel. Congrats on launching the fund.
Thank you.
We might need to send you some deal flow from this group.
Let's do it. That's the idea.
All right, guys, in the audience, any questions for Rachel? You can chat or just speak up.
Hey, Rachel, it's Kim. Just wondering, are you looking to always lead the seed round? Are you doing follow-ons? You care one way or the other?
Yeah, most of the time we will lead, or co-lead. Often, especially the A's might be syndicated as part of a larger round. But usually it's a relatively concentrated portfolio. So we'll expect to invest in about 20 companies, and with strong ownership in those, but co-leading is often part of it too.
Cool. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Rachel. You know where to find Rachel. And I'm sure people will be coming at you after this. So
I love it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, Navneet, you're up next.
Hello. Hi. Hello from sunny Singapore.
We're so glad you can join.
Thank you. Just one sec. The awkward moment before sharing the screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. First of all, thanks Ann and Emil for organizing this. I'm so excited. After 2 years of having a less than 15 members team, this is the highest attendance I've had on a call. All right, so I'll jump right into it. I'm Navneet. Quick background of where I come from. I started my career as a brand manager for a skincare brand back in 2011. Launched and scaled a brand in India, spent about 3.5 years there, and moved on to Uber in 2014, where I joined as the first DOps in Delhi in India, scaled operations for Delhi and North India, and then moved to Singapore, where I was heading the existing driver operations for the region Southeast Asia. And moved on after almost 4 years at Uber, didn't find my culture fit anywhere else. I had to start my own, and I started yours back in 2018, now doing everything. Right. I would say, sweet memories from the early days at Uber. So the photo on the left, 2014, was the first batch of drivers that got vehicle financing from us, and they brought in their families and we had a photo shoot. And then 2015 onboarded the first woman driver in India, and of course made a lifetime of friends and memories, and TK visited us for one of the Indian weddings too. Not just that, I found my life partner at Uber, where, fun fact, we also got hired at the same happy hour and we got married. And now we're building yours together. So he's also my co-founder. We are a husband-wife duo. And he heads everything on the strategy and the branding and the marketing front. So any cool marketing ideas that you see from our side are all coming from Shivam. Right, so meet yours. We're simplifying the skincare experience, and we use technology and data science to essentially create personalized skincare routines, which is designed based on the user's skin, lifestyle, and environment. Before I explain more about yours, just a quick look at why we started this. It was a very simple consumer insight that off-the-shelf solutions just don't work. And there was guesswork happening at 2 levels, which I recognize from my own personal experience, was that skincare is difficult and overwhelming. Like, as much as we think women know everything about their skin and skincare, people are actually struggling to even know their skin type correctly. And try asking like 5 people around you what's the difference between dark spots and pigmentation, and you'll have confused answers. So that's where there's guesswork, trying to understand. And the second level of guesswork happens when you're trying to find the right products for your skin with very limited knowledge that you had about your skin in the first place. So that leads to a lot of trial and error, where you're just testing products on your skin, trying to figure out what works for you. And when I got deeper into the health, understanding what matters in our skin health, realized that off-the-shelf products actually don't even account for your lifestyle and environment, which have a more significant impact on your skin health than just your skin type. But this $183 billion industry has been run by 5 giants who are just chasing the top 2 spaces, which is acne and anti-aging. And to top it all up, it's not that you just find your routine once and that's it. Your skin needs keep changing as you evolve, as you grow up, as you change cities, and it's an ongoing journey. So that's what we set out to solve. And just pretty much this is how the shelf would look like for any woman. It's complicated, it's a lot of products. And that goes back to the product development process, where it's always a claims first approach to designing products. So traditionally, a brand manager would think of a brand story, write the claims on the back, and go to the R&D scientist to develop a formula that can actually support the claims. So there is no consumer at any point of the product development process. So that's what we're trying to change with personalized skincare, where it's customer first approach. So we start with the consumer, understanding their skin, lifestyle, environment to decode their needs. And when you have customer at the front and center of product creation, the customer product fit comes in. And what you'd realize is that instead of a complicated regimen where you need 10 products to just target the same skin needs, you could just combine those 10 ingredients in one. But that doesn't happen because the 5 giants actually designed it to be with a lot of trial and error and complicated shells that we actually don't need. So yeah, we set out on the mission to make skincare simple and sustainable. I'll talk about the simplicity part first. So as a user, this is how your journey looks. You visit our website. You start with a skin assessment where you have a selfie analysis. So you upload a selfie, and using computer vision, we can actually decode what your skin needs. So removing the first level of guesswork where you don't have to guess what your skin needs. And we combine that with the information about your lifestyle and environment to give you the personalized routine where you can actually see what products go into your routine and which ingredients are going in each product and why they're going. So the consumers can actually make an informed purchase decision right at this point. And what goes behind this simple consumer journey is we have tech and data science as the backbone of the companies that actually feed into the R&D process as well. So just looking at the tech side of things, we actually use computer vision. So as I said, it's the customer product fit, which is decoding the skin needs of the consumer using technology, which is precision that comes with scale because selfie analysis helps us scale very quickly. And on the data science front, what we are using data for is three very interesting ways. One is that we're able to predict the skincare needs. So for example, if someone smokes at the age of 24, you know there will be early onset of wrinkles, right? So having the skincare that actually helps you reduce that oxidative stress is something we can get into. So it's more predictive than curative. And the second part is that as we have more than 25 data points about each user, every piece of engagement we have with them, whether it's our blogs, it's our marketing ideas, everything is personalized to what your skin profile is and what's relevant for you. So you're not lost in data trying to understand from the internet. And lastly, we collect the skin assessment at scale, so it defines our R&D process. We're able to identify white spaces in the market for which there are no products in the market because the industry is still going after the biggest segments. And all of this leads to having less than 1.1% defect rate, which we measure as number of people who didn't find the right fit in the products that we served them in the first order. And that in an industry like skincare, where there's a lot of trial and error, this was the biggest achievement we had internally. So coming to the second part of the mission statement, which is sustainability. So our commitment to sustainability actually starts at the very ingredients level. So fun fact for context, this is how important ingredients can be. Europe bans about 1,300 ingredients that are toxic, and US bans only 30 of those. And at yours, we go beyond the 1,300 to have our own list of almost 1,400 ingredients that are either not good for you or for the environment. So that's how we got into the science of just making sure ingredients are sustainable and they're sourced from ethical suppliers as well. The second part came into our packaging. So when we started designing the packaging, we actually reimagined the packaging to have airless pumps, which basically means it pushes the product till the last drop, and that reduces product wastage and makes recycling easy. And all in all, just by removing trial and error and simplifying that complicated shelf down to 4 products, we're anyway being more sustainable. Plus, we're vegan and cruelty-free. So here's yours, where simplicity meets sustainability. Where we are today, a quick look. We're just about 7 months old brand. We're just starting to see our users love the products. They show us a lot of love. We're building it as a very empathetic consumer-first brand with a lot of emotions, and they're incredibly engaged. And so are our investors, who are incredibly invested. Before I end, a few fun facts about D2C in Asia. So where US was in the D2C space about 5 years ago is where Asia is just getting started on. However, Southeast Asia is experiencing 5 years of digital transformation in one, which means that the online retail spending will triple to almost $150 billion by 2025. Couple that with the fact that 68% of these consumers discover new products through online inspiration. 54% of them actually have switched brand in the last 3 months post-COVID, and 7 in 10 of them have decided to go digital by 2020. So here we are building the next D2C brand in Asia, which is yours. Where we can use some help, and thanks in advance, is we're setting up our advisory board. We'd love to get any help that if you have any advisors in mind for product, for direct-to-consumer experience and growth. We'll also be doing our Series A in the next couple of months, so looking for introduction to investors, just starting to build relationships. We already have 2 investors from the US in our seed round, and we'd love to have more as we're increasing our presence there. And of course, media and PR, any connections there would be super helpful to start getting some more, building that trust in the market. And last one, we're moving from Shopify to our own custom environment. So that was a huge undertaking, and we'd love some UX help if anyone has some extra time to help us review the website. And yeah, it had to end with the promo code. So if your skin is asking for more details, here's the old format, the Uber discount of 17%. Just head to our website, lovefromyours.com, and you can use the discount code Uber. Any questions, you can reach out to me. Here's my email ID and my Twitter handle. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Navneet. That was a nice touch at the end. We'll share it out after so everyone can get their promo codes, because that went by pretty fast. We got a really great question from Eugene here, which is, darker skin is traditionally very challenging for computer vision. So how do you solve for that? Obviously important for your market.
Of course. So I think ethnicity was one of the key things that off-the-shelf industry ignores, because products are developed and just mass distributed across the globe. So when it comes to computer vision, it was really about the lighting, because the color of the skin defines the melanin content in your skin, right? So we do recognize which ethnicity does the consumer belong to. So it's not just the color of the skin, but also the ethnicity, and combine that with where the consumer actually lives now. So even if you are from Singapore, but you stay in the US, your skin needs in the US would be different from a Caucasian staying in the US. So that's essentially how we understand everything that goes into your ethnicity, your background, and where you're living now.
Cool. Any other questions? We're going to keep this moving, so you guys better jump in fast. Come on.
Is it available globally? Are you shipping globally?
So we ship to US, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and a few other markets in Asia. Not yet global. But we're compliant with regulations, so we will look at opening up Europe. One feedback I've heard is like Uber people are always keen to launch new markets and scale globally very quickly. They're trying to just like laser sharp focus first.
Huang, do you want to ask your question? It's always nice to hear a voice, see a face. Well, I'll read it for you. It's in the chat. So you're customizing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Wait, let me just see the chat.
The question is, how do you manage to achieve MOQ for each SKU? I don't even know what that means. Maybe you can explain it to us.
MOQ. Oh, MOQ is the minimum order quantity. So basically factories that you do the production is usually like 5,000 units. So to answer that question, when we actually designed our product library, we went into the details of using data to design the formulations. So that's how we were able to optimize the product library so we don't have SKUs that run into thousands. And that's how we're able to manage the minimum order quantity for each formulation. And of course, had to camp out of Switzerland where our products are made in the lab to make friends with them and beg them to make our MVP, which was literally made in the lab and hand-filled. So that's how we started, very scrappy. There was no MOQ at that point in time, but now we're at that stage.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go to Chris.
All right. Hey, everyone from New York City. I guess I'll jump in here. Share my screen here. All right, so first of all, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks so much, Anne and Emil, for putting this together. It's a pretty awesome event. Great to see so many familiar faces. So first of all, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Kostoulis, better known as Costo in the Uber world. Excited to fill you in on what we've been building here at Peak over the last year and a half. So, yeah, Uber. So first, quickly my Uber resume. So I joined Uber in 2013, August. I was in New York City DOP, shout out to the New York City team, Long Island City office forever. Then I moved into an expansion role, launched a couple of markets, New Jersey, Connecticut, and then Athens in Greece. After that, I moved to the mothership, worked on the product ops team, focusing on maps. And then lastly, ended my career in business development alongside Emil and Kim Fennell, working on maps and data. So if you think about it, shopping for real estate really is still a very much a 1.0 experience. Not a whole lot has changed from 20 years ago when the first listing sites and Craigslist had photos of an apartment, a price and an address. That's pretty much the layout of all the kind of listing sites you're looking at these days. So, what's the issue with that? Basically, photos can be deceptive. How many times have you been to an apartment, you walk in and within, 30 seconds, you're like, what is this? This is not, the place that I thought it was going to be. Some places have hand-shot iPhone videos, which, are definitely an improvement, but still very narrow field of view that doesn't really give you a feeling of the space. And I think the most important thing is there's zero interactivity in any of these experiences. So you're not really learning about the space. You're not kind of understanding how it's laid out. So I just want to show two quick examples here. So this is one of our partners, and they use iPhone videos here for some of their listings. So you'll notice a little blurry, not really getting the full field of view. Probably not the best way to market an apartment. And also like the bed not being made doesn't really help. And then I'll jump you into a Peak virtual tour right here. So this is what our virtual tours look like. And you'll notice that I can move around the space. I can go from room to room. And really kind of cognitively understand how it's laid out. And I can investigate kind of every little nook and cranny within the space. So why is that important and why is that relevant? And the reason is interactive virtual tours really give consumers confidence when they're shopping for an apartment. So it brings them kind of closer to the point of purchase or down that funnel of kind of, the customer journey, so to speak. And I think one of our partners, Josh Smith, who's a leasing manager at the Dermot Company, kind of illustrates it really well. And what Josh said was the quality of the lead traffic that he gets is much, much higher when a client sees a Peak virtual tour before actually showing up in person. And so let's think about that. So what that means is he sends a virtual tour to a client, they look at it, and then when they come in, they're much more likely to convert into a rental. In fact, they're so likely in some cases that half of his closes in April were completely virtual, meaning the client never stepped foot. So not only did he advance in kind of the customer journey, he went the whole way through the funnel. So very, very cool stuff we're seeing from our partners. And so let's pretend that I convinced you that, okay, virtual tours are, make a lot of sense. They help rent apartments more efficiently. We would expect every single unit to have one. But actually, even after COVID-19, 97% of listings do not have a virtual tour, which is incredible. And it's not because the technology is new. The technology has been around for 8 to 10 years. There's over 50 different providers that are doing it. So, where's kind of the disconnect and why has no one really why hasn't this scaled? Why has no one figured it out? And so the hurdle to adoption is integration and fitting in with the tools that real estate agents and managers use. And so when we built Peak, we built it to be an easy one-stop shop where a real estate agent or a leasing manager can do their entire business virtually. And so it starts with, fast, easy mobile app that connects to a camera that we provide for one subscription fee. And in some cases, if it's a large management client, we'll actually even do it for them. Then it goes to a dashboard where an agent or a manager can manage all of their listings in one really nice place. They can sync with their existing tools. So if they update a price in their listings management system, it flows right into Peak and changes the price in Peak. They can also market their listings. So any changes they make in that dashboard will also flow into their website. And so it's a one-stop shop that can do all of their business there. Our secret sauce is actually our integration. So when you think about real estate firms, a lot of them are old school. A lot of them don't have any sort of technology departments. What we do is we do no-code website integration, and I'll show that in a little bit, but we can actually, with a simple copy-paste, have a virtual tour for each listing that you've created on Peak appear right on your website. And so with that, I'll jump into a quick product demo because I think these are always helpful. So I'm actually logged in as one of our customers here. This is American Copper, which is a building on the east side of New York. And so this is their dashboard. So a lot of these are model units, so they have $0 price points, but they also have almost every unit in the building is a virtual, they have a virtual tour for. So here you'll see the layout, the price. You can actually just click and share a link with the full address, send that to a client. And so what we're finding is agents and managers are just kind of living in this dashboard. They have it open all day. So if someone says, hey, can I see 8C? They'll just share a link like this. Another really cool thing that they're doing is they can jump into the web viewer from here. And they're actually walking clients through the apartment, just like we're doing on Zoom right now. Very, very cool to see. And it's kind of changing their workflow in that way. They can also, from here, you can jump to the amenities, so the Empire Room, and then jump right back. Bunch of cool things you can do here. You can also embed a link onto your website, as I mentioned, and you can mark an apartment as rented right here. And what that does is, you'll notice this is their actual front-facing website. If they mark something as rented, it will just disappear from this embeddable grid, this embeddable component that we've given them. So really seamless integration that kind of just flows right through. And I mentioned that kind of no-code integration, so I just want to show a quick example of that. So this is one of our partners, Gotham Properties, and it looks like they changed their website on me just now. But if they had a virtual tour, the button would pop up right here below, and it would say virtual tours. It looks like they just added these availabilities. But one other really cool thing that we're starting to see is we actually have a database now of 3,700 virtual tours in New York City. So bunch of different providers, bunch of different management companies, agents, and we're starting to see the first signs of network effects, which are really exciting. So for example, if I'm an agent and I'm showing a client a 1-bedroom in the East Village, let's say they don't like that particular 1-bedroom, I can go to Peak and I can find, search by neighborhood, search by layout. I can find 3 more options with virtual tours, and then I can have 3 more shots at that deal. Agents love this because they have another chance at a deal. Managers love this, especially in this environment, because they want to rent apartments as quickly as they can because vacancies are so high. And so this is a little bit of an older slide, but we're up to 3,700 listings, and leaders from across the industry are starting to power their businesses with us, which is really, really exciting. So we're working with Greystar and UDR. We just started work with them. They're 2 of the largest property owners in the US. Compass, Dermot, bunch of different companies, New York and beyond. And 75% of our business is coming from existing client referrals, which is actually the most exciting thing of all. So people are excited about what we built. They love the solution. They're telling their friends. That's how we're kind of growing organically. We spent very minimal on marketing. So what's next? We are going to deepen the product mode and hit the gas on sales. So we want to continue to integrate on more and more processes that agents and leasing managers do anyways. Examples of that are scheduling, schedule a virtual open house with Peak. Another example is sending a collection of apartments to a portfolio of apartments to a client. And then what we want to do is straight out of the Uber playbook is deploy multiple launch teams and sell into each major US metro, because sure, New York is unique, but LA, Miami, DC, there's a lot of similarities in these markets. And so, I'm going to preface this slide by saying I'm not an expert on anything by any means, but I have learned a ton in the last year doing this. And these are things that I wish I knew a year ago. So just to, in the spirit of a builder hour, I'll give a couple of learnings that I've had. The first one is to leverage and annoy your network like crazy. So the first meeting that we ever got with a brokerage was through a friend from college's girlfriend's old boss. And you never know where you're going to get kind of, those introductions. This kind of bleeds into the second point, listening to customers and what they use more importantly than what they say. So listening to customers. So we started as a VR headset company, and you're going to see that first, sorry, the chat's going crazy here. Just going to remove that. You're going to see that first logo there. We started as a VR headset company. So I, super excited for that first meeting I was mentioning. I brought the VR headset to the meeting, put it on the table. It was like, oh, I bet you can't wait to get into the apartment with this headset on. and then I kind of put the web experience on the computer as well. And what I was told was, look, that's a really cool toy, but talk to me about that web experience. And if we never had those initial conversations and listened to our customers, we wouldn't have realized that people are just not ready for the whole shift to VR. And even though, Oculus Quests were selling really well, it's probably going to be a couple more years. Still very bullish on it, by the way. The last thing is learning to sell. Persistence gets said a million different times. I probably had to send 150 emails and have 150 calls with people before actually signing our first deal. So really it is all about persistence. I definitely didn't follow up enough when I was first starting the company. The next thing is really, really interesting. It's social proof ladder climbing. So we signed our first deal in January with an agent from Douglas Elliman. It was $25 a month. And we were super, super fired up about it. Not because we had $300 a year in revenue, but because now we could go to all the property managers we were talking about and say, hey, by the way, we're working with Douglas Elliman. You guys should probably check us out. And it actually helped us close a whole bunch of deals. The last thing is there's a founding sales ebook, probably the most important thing that I've ever read. Highly recommend it for anyone looking into sales, starting a company. It's free and it's online, and it was unbelievable. So in terms of ask for the network, we are raising money. We did a pre-seed round back in September, and now we're looking to do our seed. So any introductions would be much appreciated, especially if they're real estate focused firms that, have some strategic angle to them. If you have any real estate contacts.
Chris, for our context, how much are you trying to raise? If you want to tell us, you don't have to.
Yeah, sure. So we're trying to raise roughly $2 million. So not a huge round at all. We're very capital efficient. The second thing is if you have any real estate contacts, that would be amazing. Property managers, people building companies that are real estate focused that you think there might be synergies here, would love an introduction. And then the last thing is please follow us on Instagram, because I'm realizing the power of Instagram marketing for brands. I think if everyone followed us here, we'd probably double our follower count. So that would be very, very cool. And thank you so much. That's all I got.
Hey, Chris, it's Kim. I might have missed it, but did you talk about the revenue model, like the SaaS model with the building managers and how you're driving revenue there?
Yeah, so I didn't really go into it that much. I can definitely talk about it. We do have a SaaS, we are a SaaS business. A majority of our revenue is actually from managers. Property managers and owners. Agents are a much smaller percentage. But kind of our bet was if we get the managers first, the agents will come later, kind of talking about those network effects. So our revenues are they've grown quite significantly in the last 6 months from 0 to, over 300,000 a month, or sorry, a year. I wish it was a month.
This is super exciting, Chris. I think there's a bunch of questions. Emil, do you want to moderate?
Yeah. So Compass, friend or foe? Partner or eventual competitor?
Great question. Compass is absolutely a friend right now. They have their own kind of virtual tour product, but putting it nicely, it's nothing more than a slideshow of photos. We work very closely with them. I think we have 15 Compass teams that use our product right now. And as of last week, we actually did a webinar with 100 Compass agents. So they definitely are embracing our technology, and I don't view them as a foe right now.
All right. And then primary targets, think about you're in New York, new buildings, old buildings, condos, like what's the first and best use case that you're going after?
Yeah, amazing question. So actually our target market is rentals that are anywhere under $6,000. So previously, apartments where it never made sense to have virtual tours before, specifically in rentals, because we're looking for to try to build out that rental network. So basically any rental in New York City right now, less than 6,000.
And then is there a competitor called Matterport?
Yep. So Matterport is probably the biggest competitor we have from a pure virtual tour perspective, and they have really great technology. their model is very different. If you use their Matterport Pro camera, $3,500 up front plus a subscription fee. Probably doesn't make sense for an individual agent. They have really great tech though. So they build a point cloud while we do 360 photographs. But again, it's all about integrating with the workflows. So you're really not going to see agents like all have $3,500 Matterport cameras.
Yep. All right, last question from our former Chief Product Officer, Monik. Can you aggregate enough so that you become a destination and end users can, can come to peak.com and see what you've got in inventory?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Very astute question. It's definitely possible. I think we're really focusing on kind of the network effects from the agent to the manager side. I don't want to say it's out of the question that we open up a front-facing platform in the future, but I think that's kind of where, if you think a year or 2 years out, that's kind of where we're trending towards.
All right. I think that's it. There's one more here. I don't really. Do you have a peak virtual tour version of the first apartment you featured, where the video sucked? I'm not sure what that's getting at, but I don't know if you have any.
No, that's a great question. So I think they're referring to the iPhone video. So our partner is in the process now. We're actually moving their entire portfolio into Peak Virtual Tours. That's one that hasn't gotten there yet. But we have a list of 200 units that we're doing for them next week.
All right. This is great. Thanks, Chris. Good luck. And super relevant in COVID age to be looking at the world this way. So very good, good timing in that you're playing into what seems like a macro trend.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. Good to see you. Jacinth, are you around for our last presentation so we can end on time?
I am.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jacinth and I'm joined with Ed Kasabian. And so we're representing a volunteer organization and a nonprofit actually called FrontlineFoods. So a little bit about me first. So I started at Uber back in 2013 and was there until 2017. I started as a community manager on San Francisco operations and then worked mainly in the community operations org and on Uber Eats. And Ed?
Hi, everyone. Like Costo, I was in the New York City office, and I was at Uber from 2011 to 2017. New York the whole time, mostly marketing and operations.
Awesome. So a little bit about FrontlineFoods. So FrontlineFoods, our mission is pretty straightforward. It's two-pronged. Feeding frontline workers and getting local restaurants back up and running after they were so impacted during shutdowns resulting from COVID-19. So how this ultimately works is that we have an army of volunteers and we raise money from the community to support those local restaurants and feed heroes working on the front lines. Now, one thing that's really cool as a nonprofit is actually 100% of our donations are going directly back to restaurants. In terms of the actual model, it's going to feel pretty similar to Uber Eats. We're matching restaurants with hospitals and other frontline groups, firefighters, other groups at COVID testing sites, those types of organizations to help get them fed, with really sort of the idea that a really nourishing, fresh meal can just be so meaningful to all these folks who are putting their own lives on the lines by working on the front lines right now. We also make sure to help restaurants, make sure that they're doing compliant food preparation with all the new health and safety guidelines, and then actually coordinating that meal delivery to our frontline heroes. So what's really neat is how this organization actually started. It was the result of everybody starting to be in shelter in place, everything starting to shut down. And essentially, two guys in San Francisco sent a pizza to one of their friends who was a nurse in a hospital. And the feedback they got was just so overwhelming to have somebody care about them, to, just have that meal. And they thought, hey, you know what, let's write this up in a Medium post. And they posted this article, and it essentially was a pretty basic playbook. And they said, if you want to start a chapter in your city, just join this Zoom call. What ended up happening was Heidi Vance, who was one of our SF Ops teammates, posted on Facebook and said, hey, if anyone wants to join me and do this, I'm going to join this Zoom call. So a bunch of us joined a Zoom, And essentially, what ends up happening with Frontline Foods is it suddenly turns into an organization with 600 volunteers, a massive size organization where almost none of us have met in person, almost none of us even knew each other, and we all formed this organization from the ground up out of COVID. So what's really incredible is that in just less than 5 months, this is our impact. We've raised over $10 million. We've served over 500,000 meals. We've supported over 1,000 restaurants, and 1,000 frontline teams have served meals. And what's really cool too is this isn't just big donors, there's so many small donors. We've had over 19,000 donors. And moreover, all this impact is across 62 chapters in 36 different states. So it's pretty incredible that in just less than 5 months' time, in many ways, I think we felt like Uber pace felt slow in comparison to what we were dealing with Frontline Foods. So the other really neat thing about the work we're doing is that $10 million, because we're a nonprofit, because we're all volunteer, we're all working remote, there's literally no overhead costs. We're putting that money directly back into the economy. We're taking those donations, purchasing from those local restaurants, and in turn, that means they can hire back their employees. They can continue to pay their vendors, farmers, any of their food suppliers. They can pay their rent and bills. And that sort of velocity of money continues to work and really actually help those local communities directly in their economy. So one thing that's really fun is that we have a huge number of folks from the Uber family who are volunteering. You can see a quick snapshot of our Slack room in there. Uber family is our Slack room. One thing that's a little bit fun is somebody who wasn't an Uber alumni saw how many Uber folks were joining and created a Slack emoji just with the Uber icon to introduce any new Uber folks joining. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to somebody from the Uber family, Ed, to talk about the Unpacked in New York.
Thanks, Jacinth. I just gotta say, it was so great to reconnect with former Uber colleagues through Frontline Foods and be a part of this organization, which I've worked with a number of nonprofits, and just the pace and the ability to raise money with Frontline Foods was just incredible. And Jacinth shared some of the broader stats, but I wanted to talk a little bit about New York, because New York was obviously one of the hardest hit cities, at least in the beginning of the pandemic. And we've been able to raise over $1.7 million just for New York, 80,000 meals delivered to hundreds of frontline teams. At first, that was really healthcare workers, but we did expand that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those groups, those other groups that we reached. And we were able to work with over 100 restaurants. And I think a huge part of the key to Frontline success was marketing in the beginning. I remember joining and there was like this 35-page brand book, and just like it felt like early Uber days, like there was a unified message for all of the chapters, and different chapters were experimenting with different things and really meeting the needs of their city. So we were able to get on the Today Show. We had Octavia Spencer and Melissa McCarthy delivering meals, and this really broadened awareness, and I think gave people a way when you didn't feel like you could do anything, being able to give money that would go directly into a restaurant, and then also deliver like this beautiful meal to healthcare workers that were working 16, 18, 20-hour shifts. It was just a great way to help. And I wanted to share a couple stories from the field. My favorite is this restaurant called Saigon Social. They had been planning on opening. It was like 2 years. They'd gone through all of these hoops to get the restaurant open. And just as they're opening, the crisis hits. And Helen from Saigon Social, she found us. We were able to start working with her. She brought her dishwasher back, and then she brought her whole team back. And one of the recipients here was like a nursing unit at New York Presbyterian. I think we worked with every major New York City hospital, from the Mount Sinai, Presbyterian, the public hospitals. So that's how we started. We really focused on getting money to restaurants as quickly as possible and feeding frontline hospital workers. But as New York got as hospitals became a little bit less of a crisis, we started to look what are the other ways we can help, and what are the other frontline heroes and groups that we could support. So we were able to partner with the FDNY and an organization called 9/11 Day of Service, and we delivered to the 55 stations around New York City where emergency medical service personnel work. And they're actually like scattered throughout the city, so they can be close to any emergency that might come up. And that was one day, it was like over a weekend, and we got it done, very much like early Uber days. And then right now we're actually providing meals to nursing homes, the nonprofit nursing homes in New York, and sanitation workers who have also been, working nonstop through the crisis and have had employees who have just been directly affected by COVID-19. And again, I think the great thing about Frontline Foods is we're always evolving. And so when the Black Lives Matter movement started, we again thought, like, how can we support restaurants, but also help something that the volunteers of this organization care deeply about? So we started prioritizing Black-owned restaurants for all of our deliveries. We partnered with an organization called Open Your Lobby that was working with theaters that were closed to open their lobbies and provide meals to protesters. And then another group, sort of a second order effect of the crisis, there has been a huge uptick in gun violence in New York City, unfortunately. So we partnered with an organization called Life Camp, and they are a gun violence prevention organization in the Bronx. And instead of doing meals, we did groceries and let them distribute them, so families could have many meals rather than just one. And the great thing about partnering with a community organization like that is they knew exactly where the food had to go. So, Frontline Foods has continued to evolve, and I'm going to pass it back to Jacinth to talk about sort of the next phase of the Frontline journey.
All right, Jacinth, we're going to wrap up. So give your last minute here, yeah?
Perfect, thank you. So essentially we had some exciting news. We got more or less acquired by Jose Andres' nonprofit World Central Kitchen, and they do disaster relief all over and rapid response. So we're gonna serve as their volunteer arm. And what's really exciting is that means we're going to be able to increase our impact so much more, all the ways that Ed was talking about, and then continue to do things to help that organization streamline their operations, build internal tools for them. So if you're interested in getting involved, we'd love if you could donate, frontlinefoods.org/donate, or volunteer with us, frontlinefoods.org/volunteer. Thank you.
Wow, all the comments are about how inspiring it is, Jacinth and Ed. So like, fantastic job. It's good in this moment to have a little inspiration when all of us are home, and you forget that good people are doing some awesome work for the community, their country, the world. So really, really great to hear what you're doing. So hopefully in next Builder Hour, we'll kind of make sure we have one slot that's reserved for people who are doing things like this, because it makes everyone feel good, as we should. So, Anne, do you have any parting words here?
Just thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you to our incredible presenters. You guys are so inspiring. Thank you for sharing your lessons learned. And we're just really, really, I think, energized by everything that you're building right now. So thank you. Rock on. We'll see you again very soon. And if you want to present, let us know. Yeah, if you have any ideas that you want to present, just send Anne or I an email, and we'll get you on the list. Bye, everyone. We're on, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.